Normally I would use sketchbooks more or less this size, let's say an A5. But today I'm going to crack open the most massive sketchbook I have ever seen. I didn't even know they made them this big. So here it is. I hope you can gauge the size of it just by me holding it up like this. It's a moleskin size A3. It's supposed to be for watercolor, but the paper is not 100% cotton. So if you've watched my video from last week where I talk about the 3 sketchbook formula, this would definitely sit in the mid-ground sketchbook section. If you haven't watched that video, make sure to go back and watch it after you've watched this one. So yeah, I am kind of, intimidated by the size of the sketchbook and by filling in that first huge spread. So I hope you'll keep me company, grab your own sketchbook, own sheet of paper, notepad, whatever, and get some creative time into your day-to-day. It's always a good idea to do that. So yeah, let's start. So just looking at how, just appreciating how massive this sketchbook is. It was an impulsive buy, I have to admit. A lot of them are. Not all, but a lot of them are. And I cannot resist a large sketchbook. The first large sketchbook I ever got was the one by Rangers, the one with the simple cardboard brown cover. And I remember the first time I got it and I opened it up and pulled it out of its parcel and its wrapping. I just felt this powerful feeling like this was something that I had been looking for all my life. And that's when I realized that it's not only art that I'm into, but it's also storytelling, as I said in past videos. So as with all the moleskin sketchbooks we have, in case of loss, please return to. And that's really important to have there in case you lose a sketchbook. But I would challenge anyone to lose a sketchbook as large as this one. So the paper is just slightly off-white, quite thick, and this is not a review of this moleskin sketchbook because there's plenty of those. Again, they're 25% cotton, so they're not really fully meant for watercolor, even though it says watercolor notebook here. It will not take a massive amount of water. I like to paint very watery, so that might be a limit for me. But I'm also very much into sketching. Since 2024, let's say 2020, yeah, definitely 2024, I got more into it. I always used to be into sketching, but maybe not as much as I have become over the past year. So this can serve both purposes, maybe light washes of watercolor and sketching, and I'll just see how much watercolor it holds. And I really just want to play it by ear and see if I can have fun in here alongside with you. So if you have a sketchbook, grab it and we can start sketching and painting together. I'm sure you can appreciate the sheer size of this sketchbook and how large one single, it's a double spread actually is. But I think I'm going to risk it and see if I can make something that I'm happy with or just have some fun. When sketching on my Patreon, we usually sketch on a time limit. This doesn't give us time to think, so that we actually end up sketching what we see. I am not sketching on a time limit here. I'm just going to take my sweet time, but I still use the guidelines technique. There's a method called Loomis method. You can look that up. There are lots of videos about that, which really breaks down the structure of the face into circles and triangles and a number of guidelines. But mainly I will use a guideline which divides the face in half vertically. I'm drawing someone lying on their side here, and then another one where the eyes are, so kind of like this. The head is slightly tilted forward, so the line won't be straight, 100% straight, and that will help me position the eyes so that they're even, and also give me guidelines for where the nose should sit. And then of course the corners of the lips should be as far apart, or should sit right under the middle of the eye. So maybe if you're looking at it this way, it might be simpler for you to understand, considering the face would be in this kind of position. We'd have the eyes sitting on this line, the nose down, the bridge of the nose down this vertical line, and then the lips would be here with the corners of the lips sitting below the mid section of the eye, so the middle of the eye, the pupil if the eyes were open. But in this case, in this drawing, the eyes are not going to be open, they are going to be closed. Now there's a thing, I am really bad at talking when I am sketching. It's the same as when I'm writing. I can't talk when I'm writing, I can't talk when I'm sketching, so I might have to voice over this section of the video. We'll see how that goes. I will give it a try. I can't talk when I'm painting, but I can't talk when I'm sketching, usually, without talking complete nonsense. So let's see. I think the reason is because it requires a lot of concentration. I'm still talking live here. And I'm just, positioning the outline of the hair. So that is something that you've got to look for, is the outline of the hair. We all have different outline, the hairline. We all have different hairlines, and these are very, they define who we are in a certain way. It's something that you need to observe. You just can't skip observing it or looking at it because you don't think it's important. Hairlines are important. Just look at the person next to you, at the next person, at the next person. They will all have different hairlines. So having the second line will help me position the eyes even better, as I will get space for the whole eye in this section, in this horizontal section. And you can think of them as spheres. Almost like this, and then you can break them down into their individual elements. I won't be having almost thinking of the eye socket that's behind them and the underlying structure of that. So I'm here, a good idea is when you are drawing someone who is lying down or whose face is horizontal for whatever reason, is to not draw the drawing like this, but to also turn it round vertically so that you can see if you've got, very often when I do that, when I turn it around vertically, when I'm drawing somebody on their sides, I will notice that maybe the mouth is slightly over to the side compared to where it should be, because it's harder to get the proportions and the symmetry when we're drawing someone who is whose face is horizontal rather than vertical as usually it is. So that's one piece of advice I can give you in this little break. And I've got the general idea of the facing. I'm sure there are some things that I will notice that will need adjusting, and one way to notice that is to take a photograph of your drawing. Take a photograph of your drawing, step away, look at it, and make sure that everything is at where it should be, or where you would personally like it to be, according to your individual style, of course. And that is a really easy and useful trick to then move on, because if you plan to paint this, then you won't be able to go back and do any erasing or fixing, because with watercolor, as we well know, it is almost impossible to cover things up because it's a transparent medium. This said, I don't even know whether I am going to paint this, but yes, let's keep going. Oh yeah, and it's always a good idea to have clips to clip your paper down. So as I speak, I like adding these little lines, like half moon shaped lines, or horizontal comma lines just under the eye, because the texture of the skin is very fine below the eye, so it would be very natural to have some creases, some lines there. And also, if you want to give the impression that the eye is not completely closed but that they're kind of looking down or half open, that will also help you get that impression there. So don't forget to pay attention to this area of the eye. It's not just the iris or the eyelid, it's also what's surrounding the eye and what's underneath the eye that will help you get a realistic looking eye. Oh yes, let's take a picture of it and let's see. It's kind of looking dark on screen. It's daunting how many times you have to sharpen your pencil, isn't it? So now really I'm just looking at any flower reference flowers I can find on Pinterest, and I'm just going to kind of use them loosely as a reference. As always, when I'm drawing anything, and that applies to flowers as well, I always try to break them down into basic shapes. This is an Echinacea Supreme Cantaloupe. I surely pronounced that wrong, but anyway, if any of you out there are flower experts, you will know what I'm talking about. It still reminds me of a daisy, but like a kind of slightly different specimen. With that kind of hairy heart or bulb at the center, and then again we have these more random than expected petals coming down. They're kind of more coming down than going all the way around it, at least from this perspective. So try and actually draw what you see rather than what you think. That is an old trick I'm sure you've heard of plenty of times, but it's super important to improve our drawing skills. So I'm just adding these petals all the way around, making sure I get a little short one over here to the side. And I make the flowers in the forefront larger than they would be, or not larger than they would be, but just larger so that it's more obvious that they are in the foreground, and that adds depth to the piece, or hopefully it will add depth. And then I just add this little squiggly leaf over here, and then I'll add just another one. Actually, I'll add a bigger one over here, a larger one. I was wondering, am I still in frame? And just repeat the same process. What I do then is I flip out this very grubby, non-polished looking palette, so apologies to your aesthetically pleasing desires. But this is what I use most of the time, because it's a mix and match of my favorite colors. Some of them are from Winsor & Newton, some of them are White Knight, some of them are Core, or I think even Daniel Smith, a bit of everything in here. And I know that I will find everything I need, and I will know exactly what the colors will look like on paper, or even when mixed with each other. So it's a safe bet for me to use these. And this is what I take with me when I travel, and I really don't need much more. Of course, I do like painting with other watercolors at times as well, but this is my go-to palette. It's just going in with some really diluted pinks. So I'm going in with this, a mix of Rose Doré by Winsor & Newton and Permanent Pink. I also have a little bit of Opera here, but I don't know whether I will be going that bright, let's be honest. So I'm going to go into the lips to begin with. And I usually like going beyond the lip when I paint with watercolor, just because I feel that that is just gives a more natural look overall. So I've laid down the foundations for that, and then I'll go in with paint that is thicker, which means it will move around less on the paper. I can tell it immediately that the paper is not soaking up the paint in the same way that 100% watercolor paper would do. But that's okay, that's just me experimenting with this sketchbook. I know it's not like other ones that I own, but I also know that it can take a few layers. So I'm just going to play around with the lips till I achieve something that I like. And again, it's a matter of playing around with consistencies, with mixing your colors. Maybe you can mix a little bit of yellow in that pink, for example, like I'm doing over here right now, and drop some of that in just to get some areas of the lip that are warmer and some of them that are cooler. And really just by playing around the lip area, you can get some quite beautiful results. Lips are something that I do love to paint. There are some videos, if you look among my older videos, you will find one, or actually maybe even two. My brush is falling apart. Two videos about watercolor lips if you want to have a look at that. And I think that is quite a nice result. It brings her, let's say, more to life. And I will zoom in for you so that you can see this better while pencils and paintbrushes drop off my desk. So I really like the fact of having added a little bit of that yellow in there. It just warms up the lip over here a little bit. And we have all these really nice transitions of cool and warm tones. And as you can see, the paint that I spread beyond the lip line isn't even really showing, because the minute you put more condensed, let's say more thicker paint within the lip, it automatically makes more sense. And the fact that there's paint beyond the outline of the lip just makes it look more natural, in my opinion. I have lit a little candle because it's kind of gloomy, and this is the end of the spread. I found it really fun to paint with watercolor in, just let it melt on and blend on its own on the surface of the paper with just basically one layer or two at the most in certain areas. I will just pick up the camera now off my tripod, so if it's a little bit wobbly, that's because it's being handheld. So to me, the flowers were the most interesting aspect. As you can see, I did also go in with a little bit of micron pen. If you do that, make sure it's archival ink that doesn't reactivate with water. And I found that I was more experimental in the flowers. I used colors that I usually do not use in flowers. I was very playful with the flowers, and they kind of became the protagonists of the piece, almost more than the face of the girl, though I did try to lead the attention towards the face by adding blobs of opera pink, which is this really bright pink, around her face, sort of to draw her eye towards what is supposedly should be the focal point of the piece. But if you look at it, the eye kind of tends to travel all over it. It just doesn't kind of focus on one specific area in particular. But I have to say I am really happy with this process, with the spread, because it was fun to do most of all. I'm not really like wowing over the result that I achieved, but I think it was a positive learning. I think it was a positive learning experience because I had fun, and that is the most important thing when you're making art, because it means that you are expressing your feelings, you are channeling what's within you, you are pouring that out onto the paper, and that will serve you, and it will also serve the people who will then watch your video or watch your work of art, because they will feel that there's something behind it. I think a little bit of a highlight always helps. So even though I didn't use a lot of water at all, the paper gets really crinkly on the other side. So this means that I probably will not be able to use the same amount of watercolor on this side as I did on this side, which wasn't much to begin with. But I'm going to put like this protective old piece of watercolor paper here so that marks from this side of the page won't pass through onto her face like indentations. And I've just picked up this other, the small moleskin sketchbook, and this is one of the very experimental ones. I don't think I showed you that last week, but yeah, where we do a lot of our sketching challenges. So I really liked this one. So I think I'm going to try and pick up a darker pencil, maybe a black pencil, black color pencil, and try and replicate some of this, just kind of doodling and relaxing in this side of the spread, of the second spread. And if you would like to pause the video and take a screenshot of this and draw the same stuff, the same elements that I'm drawing, that I'll be drawing now, feel welcome to do that. And yeah, let's start. thank you so much for watching. This is the end of the video. If you've made it all the way here, you are an absolute rock star. I hope I will see you all next week. Don't forget to watch my previous videos. That will really help the algorithm push my channel out there to more people who like this kind of content. So highly appreciated. And yeah, check out all the links in the description box if you want to join our fantastic international art community. It's so much fun over there. And yeah, leave a comment. I always love reading the comments and getting back to you. And yes, I will see you all next Sunday. Bye for now. Bye.